ni Kristo.
You are watching and listening to INC Radio. Our Philippine Standard Time is 8:58 in the evening. It's happy Saturday evening here and good morning po in Washington, D.C. Yes, Sister Darlene, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you po. Good evening there in the Philippines. Good afternoon to everyone else in between. And good morning here on the East
Mhm.
Coast, or actually here from East Coast all the way to West Coast of, of America. Thank you
Mhm.
for tuning in to INC Radio Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio.
All right, and we'll be turning over po to INC Radio Washington, D.C. Good evening, good morning to everyone.
Onwards to further victories, that's the plan. There's no stopping us now. There's no stopping us now. No one can.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to INC Radio Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio. I'm Sister Darlene Nadine Diza, and I'll be your host for today. Joining us today from the local congregation of Temple Hills is Sister Lara J. Evangelista. Good morning, Sister Lara J. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Sister Darlene. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm also doing great. Very excited to talk to you and chat and interact with all of our unstoppable viewers this morning.
Awesome. Well, it's such a pleasure having you on our show to help us start off our Saturday morning today. And for everyone, today is Saturday, February 17th, and we're talking about how to make up after the breakup. Okay, there's a lot of things that we're going to be unpacking this morning. So we're going to go ahead and start our conversation already. So, Sister Lara J, give us a little bit of background. What kind of relationships do you have in your life?
So, currently in my life, I'm going to start with the most important, which is family relationships. I have two parents and one little brother, so I am an ate. And then I also have lots and lots of friendships with people all throughout the world. So long distance friendships, close distance friendships, mid distance friendships. And then I also, as an officer in the church and in the Kadiwa organization, I also have relationships with the other brethren in my locale and in my district and also all throughout the world.
Awesome. And so, like, outside of like those in like personal relationships, do you also have coworkers? Do you have classmates that you keep up with?
I also have coworkers. So I work in a remote setting. So those
Mhm.
relationships are interesting because I met almost all of them through video chats like this.
Yes. Yeah, so it's definitely interesting now that the workplace has changed in dynamic in that regard. Yeah, I can definitely understand I can definitely understand that situation. Okay, so now we have an idea of the kind of relationships that we have. For everyone else, please feel free to chime in. Let us know what kind of relationships you have as well. But most of all, give us your advice as we continue on with our topic. Okay, so the next one is now that we have an idea of how what kind of relationships we have, we there is the other part of it, the other side of the coin, as the saying goes, where there are breakups, there are fallouts, or there are sour points in the relationship. So for you, can you tell us, like, what are some causes of breakups, Sister Larry J?
I think some of the main causes for potential breakups with any relationship, whether it be platonic or romantic, the main
Right.
one for me is going to be when you outgrow a person or a relationship. Whether that's a friendship or that's, like I said, a romantic relationship, those are relationships that can be outgrown. When it comes to the
Mhm.
workplace, I feel like everyone's always being pushed to grow. So maybe that's less of an obstacle. And then when it comes to family, well, it's kind of hard to break up with your family. So, but I think outgrowing relationships is the main one for me, but then there's always, room for disagreements or maybe misalignments in morals, and then there can be issues with communication, and maybe when something goes wrong or there's any type of conflict, maybe the lack of communication skills can cause something that should have been a small issue to turn into a larger
Yeah, it's become gigantic.
yeah.
Yeah. So for everyone else, please, let us know if you had a certain situation in your life and it ended up causing a breakup, and then what were the reasons? Was there a lack of trust, or was there a moment where you realized that you guys were growing apart? And Sister Larry mentioned communication issues. That could be, again, communication that's only one-sided. It could be communication that's lacking, or follow up in conversations. And of course, there's also the parts where you have unresolved conflicts. So when there's a situation that has happened and it was never addressed properly or immediately, those are things that can, as we discussed before, right, Sister Lara J, where it can fester and becoming an even bigger problem. Another part would be probably different expectations in the relationship, or it could be about having one person grow at a faster pace or a different direction than where the both of you used to be. Those are different ways. So for our YouTube chat, if you can let us know, what are the causes of some of your breakups in your relationships, or fallouts. Again, it doesn't have to be romantic. It doesn't have to be platonic. Either one. It could be with coworkers as well. Let us know, maybe because they found a new job somewhere else, and then you ended up having your work bestie now move to a different place, and you guys can't relate to the same things anymore. I do see a message or a comment from Sister Grace. She says, "Open up your heart, accompanied with a prayer before you face that friend or loved ones." Oh, I guess that is the advice that she's doing if ever you do have a breakup. And we're gonna continue on our conversation after our station break. When we return, we'll continue to review. Okay, how do you repair a relationship, and what are the benefits of making up? Are there benefits of not making up? I think we're gonna review more of like the benefits of actually making up after the breakup. Okay, don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you a student? Let's exchange studying tips. Tune in on INCRadio Northern Europe Satellite Studio on Sunday, February 18th, 8 p.m. Central European Time, and Monday, February 19th, 3 a.m. Philippine Time. See you there!
You are listening to Iglesianicristo Radio, the voice of truth.
Welcome back to INC Radio Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio. Let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to those who have tuned in so far. We do have a lot of brethren tuning in, so thank you. We have Sister Nidel, Sister Grace saying good morning to everyone, Brother Alex Onyate from Temple Hills, greeting everyone. We also have Rhoda Gestole. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. Brother Albert Santos tuning in from Bowie. Sister Lilbeth all the way from Corpus Christi, District of Texas. Good morning, Sister Lilbeth. Thank you for waking up super early for INC Radio Washington, D.C. And then we also have Sister Majin Dizon tuning in from Waldorf. William Barrera from Baltimore. Good morning, brother, for tuning in. And we again, please continue to join us in our conversation. Brother Ryan from Waldorf and Sister Amelia Salazar from Temple Hills. So we have a lot of people waking up this morning with us. And then we have one from Philippines, Mario, sorry, Mario Oka. Good evening here in the Philippines. Greetings from the local congregation of Brixtonville, District of Caloocan North. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Brother Mario. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right back into our discussion. Earlier, we were talking about the kinds of relationships that we have in our lives and the certain causes that of breakups in relationships, what makes things go sour, what makes things go south. So, Sister Lara J, considering that there's a tendency for things to not always go as planned, right? Relationships aren't perfect, and so there will be disagreements, there will be reasons for conflict. How do you repair a relationship after breaking up?
I think after any type of falling out, the first step to repairing is taking the time to heal and reflect on why what was the cause of the falling out on your end. And then once you have an understanding of what the conflict was, what the issue was, I think that's when you know you're ready to confront the other person, the partner or the friend. That's when you're ready to confront them and have the talk, the conversation
Right.
where you
The
both
talk.
discuss how you're feeling and why what hurt you, what hurt them, how you both could have been better, or that's where you can even communicate what your expectations were in the friendship, in the relationship, and why their actions may or may not have met those expectations and led to the falling out.
Hmm. Well, that's really great advice, Sister Lara J. But you were talking about one of your first points was that you had to be able to really reflect on the causes of the fallout on your end. So I think that's a little bit different from how others may think because we're so focused on what the other person has done. How exactly do you think we can reflect on like how we may have been at fault, how ourselves may have been at fault in that particular issue?
Well, one of the prompts that I like to use is, for example, let's say someone did something that offended me. I would
Hmm.
think about, well, I am their friend. They've come to me for support in these areas during their life. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe they were lashing out at me, right? Maybe I
Hmm.
did something that triggered them to react in a certain potentially negative way. Maybe I just think about all of the possible. I try to give them, give them grace, give them the benefit of the doubt in all of the possible ways first. And then I
Hmm.
also acknowledge what they did that may have hurt me as well. So it's definitely not one sided. You can definitely still think about here's what they did that could have been done better, but that doesn't mean that they're the only one at fault. And that also doesn't
Right.
mean that the way that you reacted to their actions isn't valid.
That's a very good point. So I really like the fact that you pointed out how you have to be a little bit more giving than just be accusatory towards the other party because when it comes to a relationship, it is a two-way street, right? It is never like a one-sided thing, or it should not be a one-sided thing, because then how can you really relate? A relationship, it requires of at least two people being involved, right? So for others, please let us know, what are your advice on how you repair a relationship? We do have Sister Grace who was saying earlier, some of the causes of a breakup would be different views, ideas, or interests, and no one is willing to give up. So I guess they're like so hard set and not seeing the other side of things. That could be another reason for the fallout. Other suggestions as to how you can repair a relationship is like other separate from or in addition to really reflecting and self improvement is communication, being able to relay to the other person how you feel, how you felt how the issue has turned on your end, and also being able to listen on for their side. How is it that maybe you have affected them that you probably did not see? That those could be other things that could be very helpful. But here's the other part. Apologizing is also one of the big points in helping repair a relationship. So when it comes to for apologizing or forgiving, not everyone knows how to properly do it. So, Sister Lara J, do you have some advice for us on how we can do that? How can we be a proper apologizer, the one who actually apologizes, and the one who has to be the one to forgive, or at least will be the one to forgive?
I love this question. So, the way that I like to think about apologies or the proper way to apologize, it's three A's. So, acknowledge, apologize, and then amend. So the first step is acknowledging when someone tells you, "Hey, you did this and it hurt my feelings. Hey, you did this and it hurt me." The first step is to acknowledge, "Yes, I did that." And yes, it hurt you. Your emotions towards this, your reaction towards this is valid. And then the second step is to apologize. "I am sorry for hurting your feelings." You're apologizing for your action, not their reaction. That's one of the
Mhm.
most important points here is if you're truly apologizing, you're apologizing on behalf of yourself, not on behalf of the person you've offended. And then the last part, which I think makes for a well rounded apology, is to make amends. So here's how I'm going to improve in the future. I promise not to do this again. I promise to keep this in mind moving forward so that I don't hurt you in this way again, or let's go out for coffee, let's go out for lunch, and let's talk about this some more.
Mm-hmm.
So three three parts:
That's
acknowledge,
that's
apologize.
really great. I love how you were able to summarize that for us. So the first one again is what? Acknowledge. The second one is apologize, and the third is to make amends. I love that. That will definitely be helpful for even teaching children, right? Teaching children how to apologize. It's not just simply forcing them to say the word sorry or I apologize. It's to actually understand the consequences of it. Um, what about for those who are, I guess, like, I don't want to say repeat offenders, but that's basically what they do, right? Where they've already said, I'm sorry, but then that's like the gist of their apology. There's always a repeat or a similar offense that they have done. Like, what do you advise when it comes to relationships like that?
Honestly, I think that's really where the amend part of the apology comes into play, because let's say, for example, they have apologized for, let's see, what's a good example? Someone's apologizing for stealing my apple from my lunch bag.
Hmm.
And they say, I'm sorry, I'll never do this again, right? Next time I'll pack a lunch. Next time I'll pack my own apple so I don't have to steal yours. And then they do it again. I think that's where it's the other person's responsibility to acknowledge and hold them accountable to, the promises they made, the amendments they said that they were going to
Right.
action.
Hmm.
But maybe you just have to remind them. And when you set your own boundaries as a person, you have to respect them first before you can expect anyone else to respect them. So if you want them to respect your boundaries, put your foot down and just reiterate that this is a boundary that you don't want to be crossed, that you don't want your apples to be stolen. That's a very important part of your daily diet. So
Yeah, that's definitely important. And I think like you said, when it's part of the amendment portion, changing your behavior is part of how you can properly apologize. I feel like everyone mistakes that the apology is that one moment where you say I'm sorry, but really it's a process. And it's not like always like, okay, someone says I'm sorry and then immediately they're going to forgive you. It takes time. It takes a moment to reflect, and an ability from the person to really say, okay, I'm willing to trust you again for the future time. Okay. And then to be able to move from there, to be able to follow up after that, I think that can really help, move your relationship in a better and a healthier direction. Um, now that we have established the correct way of apologizing, what are benefits of making up?
benefits of making up. I think that when you have a conflict, an active conflict in your life, whether you've offended someone or you are the offended, either way, it's going to weigh on you. So, the
That's true.
immediate benefit to making up after any altercation is that you get to walk around with a lighter heart every day. And you don't have to carry, if you're the one who caused offense, you don't have to carry around that guilt. And if you're the one who's offended, you no longer have to carry around that grudge. And
Mhm.
especially when your relationship is between members of the church, you always want to have that love for the brotherhood that is, above all else. And you never want to hold a grudge
Definitely.
against anyone. So I think that's the main benefit of making up, is just not having to associate negativity with anyone, especially someone that you once considered a friend or more than friends.
Right, exactly. I love that, especially when it comes to relationships that, a true relationship, one that has encountered a lot together. It then speaks to how you are both able to communicate, how you're both able to bond through certain things. And for, certain people to make up after a falling out or after a breakup, it then kind of like it not only proves that you're able to resolve your conflict and it improves your communication because obviously you've had what you called earlier the talk, but then it also allows you to be a little more to empathize for the other person, to be able to understand their side of things. And then again, you also mentioned this, when we were talking earlier, that it then proves that you are able to solve, or you're able to gain a skill together. And it's almost like an emotional skill to navigate your relationship, right, Sister Lara J?
Right. Yeah. You also learn how to apologize, and you learn
Yeah,
how to forgive. Those are two very important skills that really we don't practice often, right? Like you can practice if you want to learn a skill, you want to learn how to ice skate, you can practice that. It's easy to practice that because you can do that on your own and it doesn't involve other people's emotions, other people's hearts, right? But when it comes to apologizing and granting forgiveness, I think that that's something, it's a muscle, it's a skill and a muscle that we have to learn and practice on our own. And when we have difficult situations like this, when we have situations where an important relationship in our life is at risk, I think that that is an amazing way, even though it might be painful to deal with any
yes,
falling outs, right? It's still a blessing because you learn how to apologize and you learn how to forgive and you grow with in the relationship because you learn how to understand each other better and how each other thinks.
exactly. Beautifully said, Sister Lara J. I think to be able to learn emotional maturity through certain obstacles in your relationship, it definitely makes you, helps you to withstand future problems. That mean, like, we've encountered something bigger than this. This is not a big thing for us to like blow up. We can take care of this right here, right now. And, if there's anything bigger, then we can resolve them in the future because we were able to do it before. I think other benefits to making up would be reduce stress, to be able to not feel anxiety when you hear of the person's name or you see their face as you cross the street or something like that. I think that's super helpful to not feel that anxiety on a regular basis. And of course, it also impacts eventually your mental health, your physical health as well, to not be able to feel those negative emotions rack through your entire body. And then what do you call it, reaffirms your commitment to each other in the relationship, even if it's not going to be the same way your relationship was, to be able to at least end it or to be able to move forward in a positive light. I think that's super helpful. Really quick, Sister Larry, I'm going to read a couple of comments that we have from our group chat. um, Sister Millie Salazar said that reflection is very important. With all the questions in your mind, just reflect. Answers to those questions may be answered through time. Oh, that is another factor. Time can also be a thing. Um, Sister Eliza says, gotta think before you speak. That's also good advice. So we've heard that many, many times before, but sometimes, people, we forget. Okay, just to be honest, we do forget. Sister Nidell was answering Sister Eliza saying, sometimes we do need to cool off before talking about how we feel. The heat of the moment might blur how you truly want to express your side. Good point, Sister Nidell. And communication is really important. Even mentioning the little things to make things clear could go a long way. Sister Alexis Mira, she's actually loving our emotional intellectual conversation this morning. And benefits of making up include peace. I love that, Sister Alexis. Carabaos, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Is it Carabaos or Carabaos? She said the sooner you patch things up, the better. And then brother, what is it, Sister? I'm sorry. I think I mixed it. Yeah, so there were a couple of advice from this morning, and for others, please continue to share your comments as to, what are the benefits of making up. And then the last question, really, Sister Lara J, is when? When should we start patching things up with someone that we may had a falling out with? Is there a time frame? What are your thoughts?
I agree that you should start patching things up as soon as possibly possible. However, I think that you cannot put a time frame on healing. And if you have not taken the time to reflect and you don't even know why you're offended, or you don't know why you're hurt, or you don't know why, maybe you don't know why the other person could possibly feel hurt, if you rush into that conversation, if you rush into the talk, not knowing what to talk about, it's not going to be a very productive conversation. And it
Mm,
can, in some cases, it can really even make the situation worse. It can even hurt the other person deeper if maybe they've taken the time to reflect and they're actually ready for this conversation, but you show up unprepared and they're asking you questions like,
Yeah.
how did you feel? How did this make you feel? Um, was there a point where I said something or did something that triggered you or triggered some of your past pain and trauma?
Right.
If you're not ready for that conversation and you rush into it, it can make the situation worse. So
Yeah.
I think for the first half of the process of making up, take all the time you need to heal and process and reflect and recover. But the moment you know what you would like to say to the person, the moment you know these are the points I want to bring up, and this is what actually hurt me, this is what is a petty issue, and this is what is a valid issue, this is what is a realistic thought, and this is what is, an intrusive thought.
Hmm.
Once you know talking points, a few talking points like that, I think you're ready to have the talk and you're ready to begin the process of patching things up and reconciling with the person that you love or your best friend or even your family members.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sister Lara J, for all of those advice for our YouTube chat. We're waiting for others to go ahead and give their advice as well. I think it's a little bit deep for them to also put into words there in our YouTube chat. But other, food for thought when it comes to when you should be patching things up. I definitely agree that you should take a moment to self-reflect first and be emotionally ready. Imagine like coming up into the conversation for the talk and the other person is very nonchalant about it. I would be very hurt, me personally, to
Me
be
too.
coming up there and ready to like patch things up, and then this person kind of doesn't care. So where does that leave the relationship? It doesn't really, move it forward in either direction, right?
Right.
And then like again, for the desire to reconcile, to mutually agree, okay, this is what happened, these are the facts of how things really went down, being able to see, okay, but this affected you in this way, this affected me in that way, and to be able to seek outside support. So maybe you have a mutual friend, one that can help weigh in and clear things up, because when emotions get run high, right, it could be very difficult to see the other person's side of things. So if you have a mutual friend that both of you would like to bring into the conversation, someone that you both trust, that can be unbiased towards both sides, I think that could also be very helpful for for you to be able to move forward. And of course, confidentiality. You want to have a friend that is willing to help patch things up between you and the other person, but not blab about it to the entire world, right?
Right.
You don't want to end up, being vulnerable only to find out like a week later the entire town, or your friend's sister, stepmother, and cousin's nephew ended up finding out half across the world. That's not how we want to be able to patch things up in the future. And of course, the commitment to change, right? I think those are really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you also bringing that up is also a good point because something else I think that is an indicator that you're ready to have the talk is if you have thought about the issue enough to swallow your pride and
Ah,
accept that you
yes.
can be in the wrong as well, even if you are the offended party.
Hmm.
If you're willing to have that conversation, you have to be humble enough to accept that what is true for you may not be true for the other person. And what
Exactly.
hurt you may have also hurt the other person. So, humility, pride, as long as you have those under control as well, I think you can say you're ready, emotionally ready to have that conversation.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Lara J. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on our show this morning. Do you have any special greetings you'd like to share?
I would love to greet the INC radio studio in Florida. I miss the Florida fam. And I hope they have an amazing broadcast later today. And I hope everyone is doing well in the District of Florida.
Thank you so much, Sister Lara J. And okay, let's go ahead and check out our recent district activities through our CFO in action.
CWS members in the local congregation of Temple Hills, Maryland, practice their artistic skills in the CWS coffee painting activity. led by the officers in the CWS or Children's Worship Service. The young brethren in the Church of Christ learn to use coffee as a new medium to paint their favorite characters, animals, and scenery. Activities such as these are a way for the children to learn new creative skills and are also an opportunity to collaborate and inspire their fellow brethren in the church. All the more, these young brethren are able to grow active in their faith through activities in the Church of Christ.
Shoe lovers and brethren in the District of Washington, D.C. held a footwear expo where brethren not only showcased their footwear and their pop culture collections, but also held demonstrations on sneaker cleaning, shoe maintenance, and sole repair. Brother David Oria from the local congregation of Washington, D.C. said, "It was such an awesome, unique, first-of-its-kind activity here in Washington, D.C. It felt awesome bringing people together who share an interest in sneaker culture across the district."
And the upcoming events in our district today at 10 a.m., we have a blood donation drive in Annandale, Virginia. And 2 p.m. tomorrow, we have our district bowling in Crofton Bowling Center. Let's go ahead and check out really quick what is it that we're going to do here on INCRadio Washington, D.C. next week.
Thinking of becoming a dog mom or a cat dad? Have the kids been begging you for a pet? Join us on INCRadio WDC this Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we discuss all the things to consider before adding a furry friend to the family.
For their unstoppable support, we'd like to thank our INCRadio Washington, D.C. family for supporting our broadcast today, especially to our district minister, Brother Sidney Santos, our station manager, Brother Arnel Solano, our subsidy president, Brother Angelo Manalo, and of course, a very special greeting to our executive minister of the Iglesianicristo Church of Christ, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you for everyone for tuning in to INCRadio Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio. Thank you again for Sister Lara Jade joining us this morning. Stay unstoppable, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Communication, trustworthy, supportive, on time? Which among those qualities help in building good relationship at work? Find out the answers this Sunday, February 18, 2024 at